Welcome back to Never Don't Ask with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. Today I'm in Lancashire visiting a station that's been on my list for checking out for a long time. Time to encounter Carnforth. Let's hit the titles. Carnforth Station is on the west side of town, situated at the junction of Horse Hill and Wharton Road. The current station serves two lines that branch off the West Coast Main Line. The Furness line heads west towards Barrow-in-Furness. Silverdale is the next station, 3¾ miles away. The Bentham line towards Leeds branches off from the Furness line, crossing over the West Coast line and heading east towards Leeds. Wellington is the next station, just under 10 miles away. Heading south, Lancaster is 6 miles away on the West Coast Main Line. While the West Coast Main Line trains north don't stop here anymore, the next station is Oxenholme, 13 miles away. While most trains from here that head to Morecambe reverse at Lancaster, the occasional service runs direct from the Morecambe line. Bear Lane is 3¾ miles away. Near where the direct line from Morecambe joins the West Coast Main Line at Hest Bank, it is the closest point on the West Coast Main Line to the West Coast. The station first opened on the 22nd of September 1846. It was built by the Lancaster and Carlisle Railway, one of the key railway companies responsible for extending the network through the north of England during the great railway boom of the Victorian era. At first, Carnforth was a modest station, only a single platform, serving what was then little more than a village surrounded by countryside and limestone quarries. Carnforth's importance changed dramatically in 1857 when the Ulverston and Lancaster Railway reached the station from the northwest on the 6th of June that year. This transformed Carnforth into a junction station, linking routes between Lancashire and the Furness Peninsula. The Ulverston and Lancaster Railway was later absorbed by the Furness Railway in 1862, bringing another powerful railway operator into the town. The growth continued in the 1860s and 1870s. By this time, the original Lancaster and Carlisle Railway had been taken over by the London and North Western Railway, often known simply as the LNWR. Carnforth became jointly managed by the Furness Railway and the LNWR, while the Midland Railway also gained running powers into the station. Railway workers wore uniforms bearing the initials CJS, short for Carnforth Joint Station, reflecting the unusual shared management arrangement between rival companies. The Midland Railway's arrival was particularly important. In 1880, a southeast curb connected Carnforth to the Furness and Midland Joint Railway route towards Leeds. This effectively created a triangular junction layout that still defines the railway geography around Carnforth today. The station expanded rapidly during this period, gaining additional platforms, sidings and signal boxes constructed to handle increasing passenger and freight traffic. By late 19th century, Carnforth had become a major railway town. Huge quantities of iron ore travelled through the junction from the Furness to the industrial centres further south. Passenger trains linked Scotland, Lancashire, Yorkshire and what was to become Cumbria. The station's importance also led to the development of extensive locomotive serving facilities nearby, eventually becoming the famous Carnforth Motive Power Depot. The next major transformation came under the London Midland and Scottish Railway, or LMS, which was formed during the 1920s railway grouping that merged many private railway companies into the four large regional operators. During the late 1930s, the LMS invested heavily in modernising Carnforth, and in 1938 a major rebuilding project began, including the construction of a new 300-yard platform and the enormous concrete canopy roof. The work was partly funded by the government because of the station's strategic importance on the West Coast Main Line. The rebuilt platform opened on the 3rd of July 1939, bringing the station to 6 platforms in total. During the Second World War, Carnforth became even more important. In 1942, the British government improved the expansion of the locomotive depot into a major regional railway servicing centre, with work complete in 1944. The railway handled military traffic, troop trains and wartime freight moving between industrial centres and the ports of northwest England. Then, in 1945, Carnforth Station entered popular culture forever. Director David Lean used the station as one of the principal filming locations for the romantic drama Brief Encounter. Much of the filming took place in February 1945. The station's atmospheric platforms, refreshment room and famous clock became central visual elements of the film. Even today, many visitors know Carnforth primarily as the Brief Encounter station. After the war, however, Britain's railways entered a long decline. In 1948, the network was nationalised under British Rail, and steam locomotives gradually disappeared in the 1950s and 1960s, and Carnforth's huge locomotive depot became less necessary. The depot finally closed in 1968, marking the end of the station's busiest era. The station suffered further cuts soon afterwards. Local stopping services on the West Coast Main Line were withdrawn, and in May 1970, the mainline platforms at Carnforth closed completely. When the route was electrified in 1974, the platform faces beside the fast lines were demolished and fenced off. Although expresses still thunder through the station today, they no longer stop here. Carnforth was effectively reduced from a major mainline junction to a secondary regional station, serving only the Furness Line and the Bentham Line. For many years, the station buildings fell into neglect and semi-dereliction, yet local enthusiasts refused to let the site disappear. In 1966, a Carnforth Station and Railway Trust was established to help preserve and restore historic station buildings. Restoration work began in earnest around 2000, and by 2003, the Railway's Heritage Centre had recreated the Brief Encounter refreshment room, and that had opened to the public. There were 2 side platforms here. The station building and entrance sit on the east side of the West Coast Main Line. Passengers then have to walk along the track, barriered off, we're not savages up north, then to a subway which connects to the 2 side platforms. Platform 1 is southbound and 182 metres long. Platform 2 is east and westbound. It is 242 metres long. Both platforms are on a sharp curve. The unsung saints in the Department for Transport Station Categorisation team put this as in the F1 category, the busier of the 2 unstaffed categories of station. Marked for services, 3 out of 10. The hourly service from here are Lancaster Barrow services. Lancaster is 9 minutes away and Barrow 50 minutes away. A lot of these services extend south to Manchester Airport. Preston is 40 minutes away. Manchester Piccadilly an hour 20. Manchester Airport an hour 30. Going the other way, some of these services go beyond Barrow to Carlisle, or they would. Despite the work on the tunnel towards Whitehaven due to being completed at Easter, the work has barely started. Trains currently run to Cortical, which is 2.25 hours away. The Leeds to Morecambe service runs every 2 hours. Morecambe is half an hour away. Hellerfield just over 40 minutes. Keighley is an hour 10 and Leeds an hour 35. There is 1 parliamentary train a day from Lancaster to Morecambe that reverses here. It's a 30-minute journey to Morecambe. We have the 24-25 figures. The most popular destination is Lancaster with 36,670 journeys, followed by Preston, Leeds, Manchester Piccadilly and Grange over Sands. Now let's get to the numbers. we had 196,102 entries and exits, which averages out to a daily number of 537 passengers. There were 393 scheduled services per week, which works out at 9.6 passengers per service. However, this is an interchange station, which ups the daily passenger numbers to 583 people and 11 and a quarter passengers per train. Passenger numbers are increasing and have passed pre-COVID levels, if not reaching the highs of 2012. Marked for onward travel. The Carnforth station is served by the 5, the 49, the 51, the 55, the 85, the 552, the 555 and the 755 buses. The 5 runs hourly from Carnforth along the coast through Morecambe to Overton. The 55 runs twice an hour from Lancaster to Warton, north of Carnforth. A couple of early morning services towards Lancaster start at Silverdale. The 51 runs roughly every 90 minutes from Silverdale to Carnforth. The 55 runs hourly from Carnforth to Lancaster. 85 hourly service from Morecambe to Carnforth. The 552 runs once a day from between Carnforth and Kendal. The 555 is roughly hourly from Lancaster to Kendal. The 755 runs 5 times a day from Lancaster through Morecambe to Kendal and Bowness and Windermere. Marks for accessibility, 6 out of 10. For purely physical access to platforms, this isn't bad. It's level access from the station entrance alongside of the West Coast mainline platform to the ramp down to the subway. It's step 3 then, with ramps up to the platform. Lifts would be better, but they're hard to fit them in here. Then there is this sign, a warning that if the subway is flooded, contact a member of staff. This is an unstaffed station, so that's not great. The platforms are on a sharp curve, which leads to there being a big leap between the train and the platform. Even more of an issue on platform 1, where there's a section taped off due to the platform falling apart. Train doors open just where the tape blocks passengers from getting off. We have indicators and we have announcements. The big clock from the film has been restored and is in situ, but it is stopped. And since I've marked Bridlington down for having a stop clock, I'm docking a mark here as well. Marked for station facilities, 7 out of 10. While the station itself is unstaffed, there is a ticket office, but it's operated by the local authority rather than Northern itself. The station building has been turned into a number of small businesses, including a micro pub. On platform 1, we have the Heritage Centre, which is attached to a free museum charting the history of the railway, of Carnforth, and of the film Brief Encounter. Attached to that is obviously the refreshment room / cafe. Both platforms have canopies and covered seating. However, there are not any toilets officially on the station, which is an issue due to it being an interchange with long waits between services. According to that confident cathedral of corrections to be, the National Rail website, we have 64 car parking spaces and bike storage for 17 bikes. Marks for care and character, 16 out of 20. There are 2 reasons why I put this review after Bridlington. The first was I only just visited both of them one day after the other. The other is that both stations have so much character, but the care on each station is lacking. However, there is one big difference, and let's get into it. The station building is attractive, it fits into the rest of the town, and while the railway doesn't use it anymore, it's still used for local businesses. It's into the subway where things start to go downhill, both literally because of the ramp and also care-wise. This station is falling apart. The subway had water running through into it, which was quite disconcerting because it had been dry for days beforehand. Platform 2 is a spectacular construction. There's a certain Art Deco aesthetic to it, the curved platform with the lemon-painted concrete wall and canopy. However, the paint is now peeling and there are stalactites hanging from the ceiling. Platform 1 is more regular, but the Heritage Centre has recreated Milford Junction here, and we have old-style luggage and rail industry memorabilia. So if everywhere we go on the Northern Rail managed part of the station, we get peeling paint, potentially flooded tunnels, stalactites, and obviously, I've mentioned before, part of this platform is just cordoned off and wrecked. So why am I not marking more marks off like I did with Brillington? The simple reason is while I was in Carnforth, the decay wasn't actively stopping me from staying in the station. In Brillington, the stench was. This is a beautiful station. The volunteer groups do a fantastic job maintaining their parts of the station. It's just the Northern Rail parts are falling to pieces. Marks for nearby things, 5 out of 10. Most obvious nearby thing is the former Motive Power depot, which became Steamtown Carnforth tourist attraction, and then the depot for West Coast Railways. Sadly, this isn't accessible to the public, as most rail enthusiasts feel the frustration of West Coast Railways being a very secretive organisation that has alienated a bunch of locomotive owners with its practice. There were quite a few diesel locomotives in the sidings here. The sad state of some of the locomotives is showing that they are being cannibalised for their more favoured brethren. The depot is in great shape either. When I visited, there was a signal box that was falling down. Across the station, there is the Royal Station Hotel, there is a very overbuilt co-op, and heading up the hill, we find the canal. Overall, we get 40 out of 65, which is 62%. This is a must-visit station thanks to the Heritage Centre, but overall services are infrequent here, and the station as a whole is falling apart. Much of its legacy is from Brief Encounter, and even if you, like I, haven't seen the film, the Heritage Centre is worth a visit. Though try and avoid rainy days as you may get stranded by a flooded tunnel. Thanks once again for watching this as I struggle with a cold and I travel around the country. Please like, subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of the next station review.